back to my page, or my YouTube channel. Just thought I'd just tell you a few little things that as I did them here. I know you can see them, but why I did them. I wanted these, for example, I wanted these lines to be diagonal. I didn't have diagonal black and white stripe designer series paper, so we just had to get a bit of creative with my trimmer. Once I had a 90-degree angle, it made it a little bit easier. And then I thought, just for a little bit extra texture, I'll add some more lines. Now, as you watch it go through, initially I'm starting at the top and just coming straight down. I used the ruler so that it all ended up the same. What I did find is that I was getting a knobby bit at the top and a funny tick at the bottom. So that's why I started doing, once I've turned it over, I started doing just a little bit from the top down and a little bit from the bottom up and leaving the middle bit blank because I was getting covered by the photo anyway. So I didn't really need to do the whole lot, but it gave both ends the same look. And when you get to see the final product, you'll notice it didn't matter anyway. Quick tip, when you're using alcohol and re-inkers together and you spray your paper, remove the coloured scrap piece underneath because otherwise the ink from underneath will come through. Yes, disclaimer, I forgot to turn the video on. So hence, here's my piece I prepared earlier that has a beautiful decorative stripe straight across the middle that I actually did with the Stampin. And now I'm just adding some text from, I say it very Versailles, but I'm probably incorrect there, but that's okay. I like background stamps and I especially like text ones. I don't need to be able to read them. Quite happy to mask them off. It's just there as an extra layer, for want of a better word, not to read. So you'll see that I do a lot of playing. Like I made these thinking I'll make a nice border. I haven't actually included a photo of the sketch here. I might add it at the end so you can see. I was trying to add one of the borders across the middle and I thought I'll just chop these, make these circles, chop them up, and then I didn't use them. So they're there. They look beautiful. They would have done the job, but I found something better, which you're going to see soon. I did use them in the end on the page, because the sketch had flowers on it, and I actually replaced the flowers with those little half circles that I created. These ones, on the other hand, are going to look a bit better. So I chopped them up, and I thought, actually, I don't mind them. I do like sponging onto my cardstock. Gives it a little bit of texture. So I liked that effect, and I thought that looked heaps better. It didn't blend in so well. Now the sketch had a lace doily under it. I don't do lace doilies, so I had to make something that looked similar to the sketch. So you'll notice that there's two hearts that I've cut out there. They're all from the same set of dies. They then got their bottoms chopped off so that they could fit back under there quite nicely. More circles. These ones have been put through the Big Shot to texturise the cardstock and give it a little bit of colour as well. The Sahara Sand, and I just decided that I had two half cut circles that were too pale. I needed something darker. So this is what I've got. Now keep in mind I've got two half sets sitting on the table that I had no plans to use now. So that's okay. Now you'll notice I'm putting my sentiment that I decided I wanted about my pup into the Stampin', lined it up. I did stamp it onto the grid so that I could see that it was straight, and then I've used it to put in my page. I started with the brown stays on, didn't like it, so changed it to the black. I figured I was using black anyway, but this is how I do all my scrapbooking pages when I've got a border around them. Pull a little bit of tabs off in two of the corners that are usually opposing ones, pop it down, line it up, and then I only stick those corners down, and then I just pull all those tags out, and you'll notice that it all ends up as square as, and I end up with really nice curly little bits of scrap. But yeah, that's okay. They weren't dark enough, so I gave them a bit more sponging there, and we'll see how we go now. Again, we'll put it all back together, see what it looks like, change a few things up. Use the piece of chipboard that comes with my designer series paper. It comes with a specialty paper and the foils, in particular. And I actually use that behind most of my photos to try and keep them as flat as possible rather than use dimensionals. I decided, looking at the sketch, which I will add later, there needed to be some texture on my photo. So I've roughed up the edges, scratched off some of the photo surface, and then I've drawn around my photo with my stylus. I used the block initially just to give me a straight line, although then I messed it up so that it didn't look like a straight line, but I still wanted something that was fairly straight. Like the effect, so everybody got the same sort of treatment, and then a little bit of colour added to them with the sponge. I do like the sponge brayers. I do use daubers as well, but this one already had the colour I wanted on it, so I figured I might as well go for it. Just pop a little bit of my liquid glue. Liquid glue is my favourite glue. Okay, and as with anything, less is best. I also use my tools, so my punches and whatnot, as weights, so that I put things on them to dry, underneath them to dry. Okay, so I know I don't need to go all the way across, hence I didn't. So I just stick the ones down that I need to, line up my bits, see how we go. Now, I like this lovely sheer organza ribbon, but I think it needed something. And you can't just hold it up and heat it up. It doesn't work. It needed a flat surface under it. So I'm not sure if you knew you could do this, but just be aware, if you heat it up too much, you will get holes. The organza is plastic and it melts. So hence you end up with a nice crinkly ribbon as well. Now that nice crinkly ribbon does add height. So you'll notice a bit later when I'm putting my photo back on, I leave a space underneath where there's no cardstock, just so that I can stick it down around it, for want of a better word. And I do use tape for my ribbon, but I don't use a lot. Okay, because of the way that this is actually working out, I can stick more tape underneath the photo. That's going to end up underneath the photo, because you're not going to see where that bit's flattened out anyway. Okay, and then just use a couple of little pieces just to stick it down. Alrighty. Now, like I said, I like multi-purpose liquid glue for just about everything. And what you'll see me do is I even stick really fine things on it, like those hearts, for example. When sticking the hearts, less is best again. And just dab little tiny bits. Now, if you're a bit heavy-handed, you may want to use a sponge or something of that nature to get it happening, just so you don't put too much on. And just making a little pocket for my tag there. And again, I'm using that cardstock that comes as more or less the waste product from the back of our foils and our specialty designer series paper. So do you see my space for the ribbon to sit? Worked out quite good. Just pinching that heart because it was hanging over the edge. All right, we'll just stick those down a bit better. Use my punch as a weight just to make it hold down. This glue, the reason why less is best, it doesn't dry hard and non-sticky. It dries tacky, so dirt and stuff will stick to it. It will yellow if you leave it exposed, which you don't want to do. So if you think that you're going to be too heavy-handed, you might want to use a sponge. Oh, I just mangled my heart, but that's okay. These are to replace a doily. I don't do doilies. As a general rule, I'm not really a great big fan, but the sketch needed a doily. So here's my makeshift doily. And I've chopped the bottoms off, not only because they couldn't get under there because I'd already stuck that bit down, but also it means that I've got little extra pieces if I decided I wanted to use them. And you never know. So now, did you see what I did with that bow? I put a little piece of cardstock at the back and pulled the thing through so that I had something to tie it with. I did put some adhesive on it, hence the punch again sitting on it. There goes my photos down. Now, that Shazza word, that's also cut out of the that chipboard that we've got there. You can use anything that you've got to cut it. If you've got a maker of some description that cuts anything that you put as a PDF, go for it. That's how you do it. I just use a different tool. So I just put, I put some Versamark on it, heat embossed it. Gives a really nice, shiny, very fast, very quick title. Beautiful colour on it. And you just have to get creative that you don't get it stuck to your fingers and everything. I did put a little bit of snail adhesive on the board just to hold it still so I didn't fly it off across the room with my heat tool. And there she's looking pretty smick there. Okay, so to put a few, those half circles that I had hanging on my desk came in handy, didn't they? And you'll see why I've done them when you look at the sketch. They've got flowers everywhere. This didn't warrant flowers. So, but that's cool. So what I've done with the title, which you'll see in a minute, to get it so that it stands up, because I wanted a little bit of it over the photo, not too much because it blends in quite a bit. But what I've used is on my dimensionals, I've cut those little thin pieces off the edge because I don't like waste. And then I've shoved them up. I've stuck them to the back of any of the letters that were tall enough or long enough to hold one that was easy to manage with my hands. I didn't need a lot. The dimensionals are really sticky. They will hold the title there quite nicely without having too many of them there. And this scrapbook page is actually going to go in a book, so in an album. So that'll hold it as well and help support it. There we go, one title on. And we're just going to add some little hearts. The little hearts are like confetti. They've come from the heart die that we've got there. My daughter just gave me some more. Stick them all over the place. Now I use the fine tip glue for these. Fine tip glue does dry clear and hard. It doesn't leave a tacky surface, but it does leave a shiny surface. So it is also good for, making raindrops or putting on dew on things or making a painted title nice and shiny. Well, thanks for stopping by and watching this. I hope you got some new little tips out of it, or just, enjoyed watching. Here's a couple of close-ups. You can see the scratches really good on the photo there, and just some of the embellishments. I've included now the sketch for the end, at the end. Yeah, if you'd like to see more, hit the subscribe button. I don't post very often, but when I do, this is what you get. Thanks.